My name is Michael Davis. I'm 28 years old, and if there's one thing I've learned about family, it's this. The person who holds everything together is usually the one nobody sees. For 6 years, I've been the foundation of this household. Every month, without fail, I transferred money for the mortgage. I paid the electric bill, the water bill, the internet that my sister Emily used to upload her endless YouTube videos. I covered the car insurance for both vehicles, even though I rarely drove either one. I bought groceries when the cabinets ran empty. I fixed things when they broke. I was the safety net that caught everyone when they stumbled. And yet, somehow, I remained invisible. My parents never asked how my work was going. They never wondered if I had enough left over after covering their expenses. They never acknowledged that the roof over their heads, the one my father loved to reference, was paid for by my bank account every single month. Instead, every conversation in our house revolved around Emily. Emily and her growing subscriber count. Emily and her brand partnerships. Emily and her dreams of becoming a full-time content creator. She was 24, charismatic, photogenic, and according to my parents, destined for greatness. I was just Michael, the quiet one who worked from home doing something with computers that nobody really understood. My bedroom was small, tucked at the end of the hallway. It doubled as my office. My custom-built gaming laptop sat on my desk, surrounded by notebooks, external hard drives, and half-empty coffee mugs. That laptop was more than just equipment. It was my livelihood. Every client project, every line of code, every backup file lived on that machine. I had built it myself 3 years ago, piece by piece, choosing each component carefully. It was an extension of my work, my creativity, my independence. I had been looking forward to my birthday for weeks. Not because I expected a party or gifts, but because I thought maybe, just once, my family might acknowledge me. Maybe we'd go out to dinner. Maybe they'd get me a card. Maybe my mother would bake something the way she used to when I was younger. When I woke up that morning, the house was quiet. My mother was in the kitchen, scrolling through her phone. My father sat at the table with his newspaper. Emily's bedroom door was closed, which meant she was still asleep or editing footage. I walked into the kitchen and poured myself coffee. My mother glanced up briefly, then returned to her screen. My father didn't look up at all. I waited for someone to say something. Happy birthday. We got you a card. We made reservations. Anything. But nobody said a word. I told myself it was fine. I was an adult. Birthdays didn't matter anymore. I had work to do anyway. A client deadline was approaching, and I needed to finish debugging a particularly tricky section of code. I spent the morning working in my room, headphones on, lost in the rhythm of problem-solving. Around noon, I took a break and went to the kitchen for lunch. Emily was awake now, sitting at the counter eating cereal and scrolling through comments on her latest video. My mother was on the phone in the living room, her voice bright and animated. I caught fragments of her conversation. Something about a new camera, something about an opportunity Emily couldn't miss. I made a sandwich and returned to my room. When I opened the door, I froze. My desk was empty. The laptop was gone. For a moment, I stood in the doorway, sandwich in hand, trying to process what I was seeing. My external hard drives were still there, my notebooks, my mouse, my monitor. But the laptop, the centerpiece of my entire setup, had vanished. My heart started pounding. I set the sandwich down and walked quickly back to the living room. My mother was still on the phone, but she ended the call when she saw my face. I asked her where my laptop was. She smiled like she was about to deliver good news. She told me she had sold it. I stared at her, waiting for the punchline, but her expression didn't change. She explained in the same cheerful tone she used when talking about Emily's channel that a man from Facebook Marketplace had come by that morning to pick it up. She got $800 for it. Cash. I felt my stomach drop. I asked her why she would do that without asking me. Her smile faded slightly. She said Emily needed a new camera for her YouTube channel. An upgrade. Apparently, the one she'd been using wasn't good enough anymore. My mother had seen the camera Emily wanted online. It was expensive, nearly $2,000. So, when she remembered my laptop sitting on my desk, hardly being used as far as she could tell, she decided to list it for sale. I told her that laptop contained all my work, my client files, projects worth thousands of dollars, months of effort. She waved her hand dismissively. She said I could just use the family computer in the living room. It worked fine. Besides, if Emily's channel was really taking off, this camera could be the thing that pushed her to the next level. Didn't I want to support my sister? I opened my mouth to respond, but before I could, my father walked into the room. He must have heard the tension in my voice because he immediately asked what was going on. My mother explained the situation, framing it as if she had done something resourceful and clever. My father listened, then turned to me with an expression I had seen 1,000 times before. Impatience mixed with disappointment. He told me I was overreacting. He said I should be grateful I even had a roof over my head. He reminded me that this family had given me everything. Food, shelter, support. The least I could do was contribute without complaining. I felt something crack inside me. Not loudly, not dramatically, just a quiet, cold fracture that spread through my chest. I didn't argue. I didn't raise my voice. I simply asked my father if he remembered who paid the mortgage every month, who covered the utilities, who kept the cars insured. He stared at me for a moment, his jaw tightening. Then he said that was my responsibility as part of the household. That's what family does. They take care of each other. I asked him when the last time was that anyone in this family had taken care of me. He didn't answer. My mother jumped in, her tone sharper now. She said I was being selfish. Emily's career was important. This camera was an investment in her future. Why couldn't I see that? I looked at both of them. My father, arms crossed, face set in stubborn certainty. My mother, defensive now, her earlier cheerfulness completely gone. And in the background, through the kitchen doorway, I could see Emily standing by the counter, watching the scene unfold with mild curiosity. I told them I understood. I said it was fine. I would figure it out. My mother's expression softened. She said she knew I would. She said I was always so reasonable. I turned and walked back to my room. I closed the door quietly. I sat on the edge of my bed and stared at the empty desk. That night, I didn't sleep. I sat in the dark, thinking about every bill I had paid, every sacrifice I had made, every time I had gone without something so they could have more. And I realized something. I was done. I spent the next few hours in my room, door closed, moving with quiet efficiency. I pulled my suitcase from the closet and began packing. Clothes first, then toiletries, then the things that mattered, my backup hard drives, my certifications, the few personal items I cared about, a photo of my grandmother, the only person in this family who had ever really seen me. I worked slowly, methodically. I didn't want to make noise. I didn't want anyone to knock on my door and ask what I was doing. Around midnight, I heard footsteps in the hallway. My mother probably getting water. I froze, waiting until the footsteps faded and her bedroom door clicked shut. I sat on my bed and opened my laptop, not the one that had been sold. I had a backup machine, an older model I kept for emergencies. It wasn't as powerful, but it had everything I needed for what I was about to do. I logged into my bank account and started making changes. First, I canceled the automatic transfer that paid the mortgage each month. The payment was scheduled for the 5th, 3 days away. Then, I removed my account from the shared utility payments, electric, water, gas, internet. One by one, I disconnected my name from every bill. I closed the joint account I shared with my parents, the one they had asked me to open years ago for family emergencies, the one they dipped into whenever they needed extra cash. The balance was nearly empty anyway. They had withdrawn almost everything over the past month. I changed the beneficiary on my savings account, updated my address with my bank to a P.O. box I had rented earlier that week, the day after my mother had casually mentioned that Emily needed new equipment. Then I opened my credit card accounts and removed my parents as authorized users. My mother had a card linked to mine. So did my father. I had given them access years ago when they said they needed help with unexpected expenses. Those expenses had never stopped. Last month alone, my father had charged $1,500. Dinners out, golf fees, a new watch. I pulled up my car insurance policy. The family vehicles were registered under my father's name, but I was the one paying the premiums for both cars every month. I canceled the policy, effective immediately. I went through my phone and deleted old family group chats. I removed my parents and Emily from my emergency contacts. I updated my passwords on every platform, every account, every service they might try to access. It took 2 hours to untangle myself from their lives. When I was finished, I stared at the screen. Everything was set to take effect the following morning. The mortgage payment scheduled for the 5th of every month would bounce. The utility companies would send disconnect notices within days. The insurance company would notify my father that coverage had lapsed. By the time they realized what was happening, I would be gone. I pulled out a flash drive from my desk drawer. It was small, black, unassuming. I had prepared it earlier that evening. On it was a single document, a detailed spreadsheet listing every payment I had made over the past 6 years. Mortgage payments, utility bills, groceries, car insurance, repairs, medical bills, credit card payments, everything. At the bottom of the spreadsheet was a total, $73,412. $73,000 I had given to this family without ever asking for anything in return. I also included a letter, short, direct, no anger, no bitterness, just facts. It explained that I was leaving, that I would no longer be funding their lifestyle, that they were adults fully capable of supporting themselves, that I wished them well. I plugged the flash drive into the family computer in the living room. I set it to autoplay the next time someone logged in. A simple script I had written. Nothing malicious, just informative. Then I returned to my room, grabbed my suitcase, and walked out the front door. The night air was cold. The street was silent. I loaded my suitcase into my car, the one I had bought and paid for entirely on my own, and sat in the driver's seat for a moment. I thought about going back inside. I thought about leaving a note on the kitchen counter, but I didn't. I started the engine and drove away. I checked into a hotel across town. It was nothing special. A budget chain with clean sheets and reliable Wi-Fi. I didn't need luxury. I needed space, distance, silence. I lay on the bed and stared at the ceiling, replaying the last 6 years in my mind. It started when I was 22. I had just graduated with a degree in computer science and landed my first freelance client. The pay wasn't great, but it was steady. My parents were struggling with the mortgage at the time. My father had been laid off from his manufacturing job. My mother was working part-time at a retail store that barely covered groceries. They asked if I could help, just temporarily, just until they got back on their feet. I said yes. I moved back home after college instead of finding my own place. I told myself it made financial sense. I could save money, build my career, help my family through a rough patch. But the rough patch never ended. My father found another job, but it paid less than the old one. My mother kept her part-time hours because she said the schedule worked better for her. And somehow, without anyone officially deciding it, I became the primary breadwinner. At first, I didn't mind. I was young. I didn't have a lot of expenses, and I wanted to help. But then Emily graduated high school and decided not to go to college. She wanted to be a content creator. She wanted to build a brand, gain followers, make a living doing what she loved. My parents supported her completely. They said she was talented, special, destined for something bigger than a traditional career path. I watched as they bought her equipment. Lights, microphones, a ring light, a better phone, editing software subscriptions, a backdrop, props for videos, clothes for different aesthetics. None of it was cheap, and none of it came from their income. It came from mine. I started noticing a pattern. Whenever Emily needed something for her channel, my parents found a way to make it happen. But when I mentioned needing a new desk chair because mine was falling apart, or upgrading my work setup so I could take on bigger projects, or even just taking a weekend off to recharge, I was told money was tight. I paid for her dental work when she chipped a tooth doing a challenge video. I covered the cost of her car repairs when she backed into a mailbox while filming a driving vlog. I bought her a new laptop when hers broke because she said she couldn't edit videos without it. And through it all, nobody ever said thank you. I became background noise, the dependable one, the one who would always be there, quietly transferring money, quietly fixing problems, quietly keeping everything afloat while they chased dreams and lived comfortably. I thought about my grandmother. She had passed away 2 years ago. She was the only person who ever asked how I was doing, really asked, not as a formality, but because she genuinely wanted to know. The last time I saw her, she was in the hospital. Cancer had taken her quickly. I sat by her bed, holding her hand, watching machines beep and monitor her vitals. She looked at me with tired eyes and told me I was too good for my own good. She said people would take as much as I was willing to give, and if I wasn't careful, I'd give until there was nothing left. I told her I was fine. I told her family was supposed to take care of each other. She squeezed my hand and said something I've never forgotten. She said, "Family means everyone takes care of everyone, not just one person carrying the weight while the others walk free." I didn't understand what she meant at the time. I understood now. She had seen what I couldn't. That I wasn't part of a family. I was a resource, a bank account with a name attached. And the moment I stopped being useful, I would stop mattering. My birthday had proven that. 28 years old, and not a single person in that house remembered. But they remembered Emily's camera. They remembered their own needs, their own wants, their own comfort. They just never remembered me. I woke up to the sound of my phone vibrating. It was 7 a.m. I had 17 missed calls. 12 from my mother, 3 from my father, 2 from Emily. I silenced the phone and set it face down on the nightstand. I ordered room service, coffee and toast. I ate slowly, staring out the window at the parking lot below. The sky was overcast. Rain was coming. My phone buzzed again. A text from my mother. "Where are you? Why did the mortgage payment bounce?" Then another. "Michael, answer your phone. This is serious." Then my father. "Call me immediately." I didn't respond. I took a shower. I got dressed. I made a list of things I needed to do. Find an apartment. Update my mailing address. Notify my clients of my new contact information. I felt strangely calm. No guilt, no regret, just a quiet sense of clarity. Around 9 a.m., my phone rang again. This time it was a number I didn't recognize. I almost didn't answer, but something made me pick up. It was my mother. She was calling from a neighbor's phone. Her voice was frantic. She asked where I was. She said the bank had called. The mortgage payment didn't go through. The electric company sent a disconnect notice. The car insurance had been canceled. She asked what was going on. I told her I had left. There was a long silence. Then she asked what I meant by left. I explained that I was no longer living at home. I was no longer paying their bills. I was no longer funding their lifestyle. I said it calmly, matter-of-factly, like I was explaining the weather. She stammered, her voice rising. She said I couldn't just leave. I had responsibilities. I was part of this family. People depended on me. I told her she was right. Family is supposed to take care of each other. But for 6 years, I had been the only one taking care of anyone. She started to argue, but I didn't let her finish. I told her the family computer had a flash drive plugged in. She should check it. Everything she needed to know was on that drive. Then I hung up. My phone exploded with messages after that. Dozens of them. My mother, my father, Emily, even some extended family members who had apparently been brought into the situation. I turned my phone off completely. I spent the rest of the day apartment hunting. I found a small studio on the other side of town. It was available immediately. 1 room, a kitchenette, a bathroom. The landlord was an older man who barely asked questions. I signed the lease that afternoon, paid first and last month's rent, and moved in with my single suitcase. The apartment was empty. No furniture, no decorations, just blank walls and clean floors. It was perfect. I spent the next few days setting up my new life. I bought a cheap air mattress and some basic supplies, a folding table for my workstation, a chair from a thrift store, dishes, towels, the essentials. I focused on work. I contacted my clients, updated my information, and threw myself into projects. Coding was easier than thinking, easier than dealing with the mess I had left behind. But I couldn't completely ignore what was happening. I turned my phone back on after 3 days. The messages were overwhelming. Voicemails, texts, emails, all from my family, all escalating in desperation. My mother's messages went from pleading to angry to desperate. She told me I was selfish. She told me I was ungrateful. She told me I was destroying everything they had worked for, as if they had built anything without my money. My father's messages were shorter, angrier. He called me a coward. He said I owed them. He said I would regret this. He said no son of his abandoned his family. Emily's messages were the most manipulative. She sent crying selfies. She sent screenshots of her declining subscriber count. She said I was ruining her life. She said she didn't understand what she had done to deserve this. She said she thought I loved her. I blocked all of them. But I still kept tabs on what was happening. Not because I wanted to gloat, but because I needed to see it through. I needed to know that walking away was the right choice. I checked my mother's Facebook page. She had posted a vague status about betrayal and family. The comments were full of concerned friends asking what happened. She didn't name me directly, but the implication was clear. I checked Emily's YouTube channel. She had posted a video titled, "Taking a Break." In it, she explained through tears that she was dealing with a family emergency. She didn't go into details, but she said she wouldn't be uploading for a while. The comments were supportive, sympathetic, people telling her to take care of herself, people saying family comes first. I wondered if any of them knew the truth. Then I got a message from an unknown number. It was from my aunt, my mother's sister. She lived a few hours away, and we rarely spoke. She said she had heard what happened. She said my mother had called her crying, asking for money. She said my father had tried to take out a personal loan but was denied because of his credit score. She said they were scrambling. She asked if I was okay. I told her I was. She said she wasn't surprised. She said she had always thought my parents took advantage of me. She said she was glad I finally stood up for myself. She told me my grandmother would have been proud. That message stayed with me. My grandmother would have been proud. 2 weeks after I left, I received a call from a number I didn't recognize. This time, it was a lawyer, not representing my family, representing my grandmother's estate. Apparently, there had been a final detail in her will that was only to be executed on my 28th birthday, a savings account she had kept separate from the rest of the family. She had been setting aside small amounts for years, money from her pension, from small investments. The lawyer explained that the account was to be released to me. The amount was $22,000. But it wasn't the money that mattered. It was the note that came with it, written in my grandmother's handwriting, sealed in an envelope. The lawyer read it to me over the phone. "Michael, you've always been the strong one, the dependable one, but don't forget to be kind to yourself, too. You deserve a life that's yours. Don't let anyone take that from you. You were never the problem. You were the solution they never appreciated. I'm proud of you always. Love, Grandma." I sat in my empty apartment, phone pressed to my ear, and felt tears roll down my face. Someone had seen me. Someone had valued me. Someone had believed I deserved more. Over the following month, the situation at my family's house deteriorated rapidly. I heard about it through my aunt, who remained in contact with both sides. The mortgage payment bounced. The bank sent a notice. My parents scrambled to cover it, but they didn't have the funds. My father's salary barely covered their basic living expenses. My mother's part-time income was negligible. They tried to set up a payment plan with the bank. The bank refused. They were already 2 months behind, and without proof of stable income that could cover the monthly payment, foreclosure proceedings began. The utilities were shut off within 2 weeks. First, the internet, which sent Emily into a panic. She couldn't upload videos, couldn't respond to comments, couldn't maintain her channel. Her subscriber count started dropping. Brand deals fell through. The camera my mother had bought with my laptop money sat unused. Then the electricity was disconnected. My parents paid to have it reconnected, draining what little savings they had left. It was disconnected again a month later. The car insurance lapse resulted in my father getting pulled over. The officer impounded the vehicle. My father had to pay fines, impound fees, and provide proof of insurance to get it back. He couldn't afford any of it. My mother tried to sell things, furniture, jewelry, anything of value. But it wasn't enough. The hole was too deep. Emily's YouTube channel effectively died. Without consistent uploads, without the ability to engage with her audience, her followers moved on. The algorithm stopped recommending her videos. Her dreams of content creation collapsed in a matter of weeks. My parents had to move out of the house. Foreclosure was finalized. They moved in with my mother's friend temporarily, cramming into a spare bedroom, surrounded by boxes of belongings they couldn't fit anywhere else. My aunt told me my mother cried every day. My father refused to talk about it. Emily blamed everyone but herself. And through it all, I felt nothing but relief. I wasn't happy about their suffering. I didn't celebrate their downfall. But I also didn't feel guilty, because for the first time in 6 years, I wasn't carrying their weight. 6 months after I left, my life looked completely different. I had furnished my apartment, not with expensive things, but with pieces that were mine: a rail bed, a proper desk, bookshelves, plants on the windowsill, art on the walls, small things that made the space feel like home. My freelance work had picked up significantly without the constant drain of supporting my family. I had money to invest in better equipment. I bought a new laptop, better than the one my mother had sold. I upgraded my monitors. I took courses to expand my skill set. I raised my rates. I was more selective about the projects I accepted. I started building the kind of portfolio that attracted higher-paying clients. I made new friends. People I met through work, through hobby groups, through random encounters at coffee shops. People who valued me for who I was, not what I could provide. I started therapy. I worked through the years of feeling invisible, the guilt, the misplaced sense of obligation. My therapist helped me understand that boundaries weren't cruel. They were necessary. That saying no wasn't selfish. It was self-preservation. And slowly, I started to feel like myself again. Not the Michael who existed to solve everyone else's problems, but the Michael who had interests, hobbies, dreams of his own. I learned to cook properly. I started running in the mornings. I read books I had been meaning to read for years. I watched movies without feeling guilty about taking time for myself. I existed as more than just a bank account with a name attached. 8 months after I left, I received one final message from my mother. It came through email since I had blocked her number. The subject line read, "We lost the house." The message was short. "We lost the house. I hope you're happy. You destroyed this family. Your father won't even speak your name. Emily had to give up her dreams, all because you were selfish. I hope you can live with what you've done." I read the message twice. Then I deleted it. But I did think about her words. Was I happy? Not in the way she meant. I didn't take pleasure in their suffering. I didn't celebrate their downfall. I didn't feel vindicated or victorious. But I was at peace. I had spent 6 years holding up a structure that was never designed to stand on its own. I had given everything, and it had never been enough. Because the problem wasn't that I wasn't giving enough. The problem was that they were taking everything. They had built their entire lifestyle on my back. And when I finally stood up straight, they collapsed under the weight of their own choices. Walking away didn't make me cruel. It made me free. I looked around my small apartment, my workspace, my books, my quiet, simple life. Everything here was mine. Built by me, paid for by me, chosen by me. For the first time in years, I had space to breathe, space to grow, space to exist as a complete person rather than just a solution to everyone else's problems. And that, I realized, was worth everything I had left behind. 1 year after I left, I got a message from my aunt. She said my parents had stabilized somewhat. They were renting a small apartment. My father had picked up overtime hours. My mother had found full-time work. Emily had gotten a regular job at a retail store. They were surviving. They were learning what I had known all along. That survival takes work. That comfort has a cost. That nobody owes you a lifestyle you can't afford. My aunt asked if I ever thought about reaching out, about reconciling. I told her maybe someday, but not yet. Perhaps not ever. Because the person they wanted me to be, the person they expected me to be, didn't exist anymore. I wasn't their safety net. I wasn't their backup plan. I wasn't their invisible provider. I was just Michael, a 29-year-old software developer with a small apartment, a growing career, and a life that finally belonged to him. I had stopped holding up their world, and in doing so, I had built my own. My name is Michael Davis. I'm 29 years old, and I finally learned that the person who holds everything together deserves to be held up, too. I chose to hold myself, and I've never looked back.